This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn with Martin Corley from Sample Answers. I will now hand over to Martin to introduce himself and do the presentation.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I hope everybody can hear me and see everything well. There's a little bit of noise near me. I think somebody's having some scaffolding put up, but it should be not too obtrusive. I just wanted to thank you for having the opportunity to present something that we've been working on in the past couple of years. So I'll just kick off. There'll be a general introduction from me, and then I'll just sort of get straight into talking about Envision, which is the thing we've been developing. So if you are unaware of Sample Answers, we were founded in 1995, and we've been supplying either telephone samples, postal samples, or latterly online interviews to the market research industry. That was our goal when the company was set up. So it was set up by market researchers to help market researchers, because there's a bit of a disconnect, I think, generally between wider sort of data industry and how market researchers use their data. Certainly when it comes to CATI surveys and telephone samples, there's a reasonable disconnect there. However, so that's just a little bit about us. I'm at my second stint now with Sample Answers, having kicked off my post-university career in 2000 with them, and been around the houses a little bit in the meantime. Some online data collection, some agencies as well, so Canadian as was, and Opinium, and then I went back to Sample Answers about 3 or 4 years ago, and here we are. Now, what is Envision? Essentially, and I will keep things quite straightforward today, it's an interviewing platform that we provide as a service. So it can be used for pretty much any kind of interviewing. When lockdowns started, one thing that we had in mind for this was that it's a very easy service to use and it's very scalable. So we started chipping away at some improvements, taking that forward, and with a view to hopefully getting some work from people who were switching face to face, because that was very problematic at the time, into online, where you have everything recorded and you have that resource there that you can rely on and fall back on. As the presentation goes on, I'll make you aware of different features and facets of it, and that will just sort of be teased out. And then if there's anything missing at the end, then you can just let me know. I mean, we really wanted to, even though we're still at a beta stage, really, although we have a lot of research experience ourselves, you know, if we're going to make, or if we're going to create something for market researchers to use, then, you know, I think it would be good for us to actually have feedback and have thoughts and have some collaboration from a knowledgeable bunch of people like the ICG. So into the sort of core message, which I guess was my hook, you know, how does this save you time and energy, really? Basically, it saves time and energy at the beginning and at the end. So what would happen with us providing this as a service is that you would just simply send me everything that you need. I would do all the setup. Doesn't really matter how many interviews or how many people you want to speak to. It will take pretty much the same time to set something up for 5 people as 55 as 555. So with Envision, we're basically freeing up your time at that start stage. So we take away all the faff, and once your interviews have been done and completed, we've built in a lot of automation for the outputs that will accompany any kind of interview that you want to undertake. So I'll also talk about those a little bit further down in the presentation. These, I think, for anybody doing qual work are pretty much standard, and we have them. So whiteboard, image markup, audio and video files, that's all pretty standard. And I think if you have any suggestions for functions or other bits and pieces that you might like to see, I'll be very happy to hear about that from you. And obviously the other aspect of this is, what about the outputs? And we have built in transcription, translation. You would have an output from whiteboards. If you wanted to see how a whiteboard evolved over a discussion, then we can sort of play that out to you as a file at the end. And then the audio files, we would just have those ready for you. So you don't actually have to do anything yourself, unless you really want to or need to. We're very happy to take that and do that for you. And I think the other thing to say there is that Envision itself is fully compliant and it is secure, and we rely on a lot of browser-based security to do this. I wouldn't be alarmist about using Zoom or Teams or whatever, but there are sort of lingering concerns, I would say, about the vulnerabilities in software packages or for applications, bits of software that either you or the interviewee has to download. So it's worth a consideration for anything wider that you're looking at the moment. I know for a fact that a friend of mine who runs a focus group facility that was being recorded, a group was being recorded, and that stream was being hacked, basically by people in China, I believe, and the person in charge of that security, or in charge of the software, got a call from somebody at GCHQ. So it's worth just checking these things and being aware of them. I mean, the other aspect to having something that's browser based is that it's a bit more respondent centric and a bit more respondent friendly. So the respondent doesn't have to download anything. The respondent simply clicks on a URL, clicks on a link that takes them into the interview environment, and they don't need to download anything or have any other piece of kit than a webcam and a working mic. The other interesting thing here is that, as I know from the past few days of preparation for giving this presentation, GoToMeeting, which is what's being used, that actually doesn't like my preferred browser. So I've had to come into a different environment and do something differently. But that actually doesn't matter with Envision. So there's a lot less onus on the respondent to have to manage anything or download anything. And that's the same for the interviewer as well. And with it being browser based, there's also no chance, or there's no real possibility that the device that the interviewee is using will become an issue. So I've used this on iPhone, we've had it on Android phone, and that's using video as well. So it's a flexible, powerful system that we've got here, and the sort of tech requirement from an interviewee is minimal. So it just generally helps with the process, and it just means that things run a bit more smoothly when it comes to interviewing who you need to speak to. I'll just use this to talk about some more features and how it can be customized. So you could have something that would be set up and you could just sort of let that run, and that would be the standard environment. But if you wanted to have client logos, we can incorporate those. If you want to have your own business logo in there, we can do that for you. And we can just sort of adjust the look and feel of the whole site. So different border colors, we can have different text colors given to different respondents. So if you've got a small focus group of 6 or 7 people, we can just simply give everybody a different color so that things are a bit clearer. And we can also offer different levels of participation or engagement within the group. So you as the interviewer or the moderator would obviously take a lead, and you would have responsibility for inserting the whether it's an audio file, the content, the stimulus, what you want marked up. You have responsibility for that, and then the respondents, they have a different level of accessibility, and you might want, for example, to have a shy participant, which is basically just an observer. So if you have your client who might want to look in at the group as it's ongoing, then we can arrange for that as well and have a separate link for that person. So it's not a one size fits all in terms of the look and feel. It is very customizable, and we're happy to look at anything that people would consider to be a good addition to that if there's something that's needed. And then just a little bit about how this might work in the real world. So in terms of a scenario, if you did want to use Envision for some interviewing, you would just simply, in the end, you would just send me an email with your requirements, and then I would do all the setup. Probably take me half an hour to an hour, no more than that. And then you would have everything ready to go. And the only thing you would have to do is manage the respondents, manage the interviewees, and let them in when you need them. So it is pretty simple. I can't really elaborate more on it than that. It basically is what it is. But hopefully that gives an idea as just to how straightforward it is to use and engage with. As I mentioned, we're at a beta stage, but we do have some indication of cost, and I didn't really want to give this presentation without any indication of cost. This is just to give a brief indication, I guess. But if you wanted me to cost up a particular project, if you had some specification there that you wanted me to cost up, so you had a more precise indication, then happily I'll do that for you and let you know. But hopefully that will give a good indication there. and we have designed things to be, you know, competitive with the landscape, hopefully a bit cheaper. But we'll just have to sort of take that as it comes, and we'll manage that. That's really it. I mean, I think from my side, I would just like to probably see myself talking on cam. So that's let me stop sharing that. So that's the presentation over with, basically. I've gone through that very, very quickly. But like I say, we've got something that's at a beta stage. We are looking for thoughts, feedback, collaboration. We are just sort of open to hearing from people, you know, what kinds of problems or what kinds of struggles you've had recently with running these types of things. Hopefully this can offer some solution to that, perhaps. So yeah, I'll just sort of throw that out there. Oh, I've just seeing some question. So I just saw Karen's question and then it went away. Oh, 2 seconds.
I've got it if you can't see it. Do you have anything that you can share to show us what it looks like?
Oh, I don't think I do right now, but I will be able to send that at the end, or you know, this afternoon or something.
Okay, that would be great. When we send a recording, Martin, anything that sort of gives a feel for what it looks like would be really helpful.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Martin?
Yes, I do, Lucy. Hi, Martin. It's Mike.
Hello, Mike.
Hello. So in your pricing bit, you talked about the cost per participant or link. So is
Yeah.
the option with Envision we can get people that come from your recruitment, or we could use people that we've recruited through Envision? Is it the same thing, or is that a different scenario, different option?
That's likely a different scenario. So when it comes to respondents, yes, I mean we have samples. I mean that's what we do. We're not necessarily a recruitment agency in that, not a recruitment agency, sorry, but we're not a fieldwork recruiter. So I mean, really, the sample can come from anywhere as long as it's GDPR compliant. And the other thing that I would mention here is that because we don't need any respondent information, there's no personal identifiable information that we have to be dealing with when we set up. I mean, like I say, you could just give me a list of 55 names, you know, Martin, Mike, Deanne, Mark, Karen, Nick, Lucy, etc. And I would just simply send you back a file with the URLs for them all. So I don't think I've actually answered your question there, Mike. But what I think is probably what I think is maybe a better idea is for me to send out a snapshot of a defined project. So rather than those sort of individual costs there, and then you've got to work out, you know, what you want to do once you've sort of multiplied everything up by the respondents and the number of minutes and everything else. What I can also do when I send the images to Lucy, I can just give a broken out sort of defined project cost, and that might help you a bit more.
Okay, yeah. I think the clarity I was looking for you did give. So essentially, if we've got our own participants, whether they be, you know, employees at a company, or whether they be recruitment for a consumer, you know, they could be individuals, they could be you know, as you say, a mini focus group type thing, we'd have those, and then you would supply us the links so that we could go through the process with them, rather than coming to you and saying we need 20 small to medium enterprises that do this and we want to go through this process using Envision. This is more about us providing our own.
Yes. So if you've worked with, I mean, there are loads of people out there, but I mean, I guess, you know, whoever's doing these things, I think, you know, would be one that come to mind, or XYZ. So if you're working with people like those to do qual recruitment, then yeah, you just let me know how many people you want, give you the links, no problem at all.
Great, thanks.
I think that leads on to my question, which is, you know, who do you think are your direct competitors here? Do you have a sort of sense of who?
I mean, direct competitors would be known sort of qual platforms like Qualsy, for example. That would absolutely be one. And then also, you know, we're looking at having to compete with Zoom, with Teams. I mean, obviously, people have used Skype to an extent, and I think there's nothing wrong with any of those at all, but they don't really have either the respondent or the researcher at the sort of heart of them. So they were created for different means, really, whereas Envision, it only has market research at its heart, I would say. So, and I think the other thing that I've noticed just because I use Zoom probably 3 or 4 times a week for various ongoing things, and the thing I always notice is that something like Zoom, for example, is really heavy on battery. So I think in a wider sense, easing that burden on the respondent is helpful anyway. But the programs are quite heavy on, certainly on mobile devices. It's not an issue if you're plugged into a laptop, obviously, but yes. So in essence, Lucy, we're competing with existing industry tools, and we're competing with sort of existing non-industry tools.
Mm.
I mean, I'd be very happy to give anybody a demo, but I just didn't really feel like a lunchtime slot, half an hour, didn't really feel like a good place to sort of demo something and, you know, get sort of stuck into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, let's talk further about that. Okay. Anybody have any further questions for Martin? Okay. So we're 2 minutes to go. So thank you so much for that. We will circulate. I think maybe numbers are down because of the teachers' strike as well, because we certainly had quite a few registrations. So I suspect people are distracted by that. But I will circulate the recording to everyone as promised, and we will talk further, Martin, about getting in front of our members.
Yeah, I mean, anything at all. Like I say, we're still in a beta stage. It's not fully ready. And if we can just sort of tease out maybe some more defined user cases, things like that, then it'd be fantastic.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks a lot, everybody, for attending, and have a good rest of the day. And thank you, Martin, again.
Thanks, Lucy.
Martin.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.